Commander Jack Miller stood at the large window of Earth's orbital command station. His eyes followed the last alien ships as they moved away from Earth. Their engines glowed blue against the darkness of space. Jack's hands tightened into fists, at his sides. "They're really leaving," he said quietly. "All of them." Lieutenant Susan Grant joined him at the window. She had been Earth's main contact with the Galactic Council for 3 years. Now her job no longer mattered. The Zenturi ship was the last to go, she said. At least their ambassador looked ashamed. Jack shook his head. "Fat lot of good shame does us now." The screen behind them lit up with an incoming call. Admiral Carol White's face appeared, looking tired but determined. "Miller, Grant, report. To Briefing Room 6 immediately. Bring everything you have on the Void Collective." The screen went dark before they could answer. Susan gathered her tablet and nodded to Jack. "This is it then." They walked quickly through the station's curved halls. Other officers rushed past them, all with the same worried look. Earth had just received the worst news in human history, and everyone knew it. The briefing room was already half full when they arrived. Admiral White stood at the front table with General Henry Martinez from Earth's United Defense Forces. Dr. Alan Peterson from Xenobiology sat hunched over a laptop, his gray hair messy as if he'd been running his hands through it. "Everyone's here? Good." "Lock the door," Admiral White said. The screens on the wall showed the solar system. A red arrow moved from beyond Pluto toward Earth. "The Galactic Council's final message confirmed what we feared," White said. "The Void Collective is headed directly for us. Estimated arrival at the edge of our system. 3 months." The room stayed quiet. They had all heard rumors for days, watching as alien diplomats made excuses to leave Earth. Susan stepped forward. "Admiral, I have something you need to see." She connected her tablet to the main screen. A series of documents appeared, all marked with the Galactic Council's seal. These were left behind, possibly by accident, when the Rigelian delegation departed, Susan said. "I've translated them." Dr. Peterson looked up from his laptop. "And they've known the void was coming for over a year," Susan said. Her voice was steady, but Jack could see the anger in her eyes. "They calculated that if the void hit our system first, it would give them time to prepare their core worlds, General." Martinez swore loudly. "They used us as bait." "Worse," Susan continued. "They deliberately kept us technologically limited. All those trade restrictions and the gradual introduction of technology policy. It was to make sure we couldn't leave. They needed someone in the void's path." Jack felt sick. Humanity had been so proud when the aliens first came 11 years ago. Earth had joined the galactic community, or so they thought. Trade, cultural exchange, the promise of new technology. It had seemed like the beginning of a golden age. Now they knew the truth. They had never been equals. Dr. Peterson cleared his throat. "I've been analyzing the data from our deep space telescopes, combined with what little the Council shared about the void." He brought up images on the screen. Dark ships, shaped like twisted insects. "The Void Collective is not a conventional civilization," Peterson explained. "They're a hive mind species. Each ship contains thousands of drone bodies connected to a central neural network. They consume all organic matter on planets they conquer, converting it into more drones." "What about their technology?" Jack asked. "Weapons? Defenses?" "Far beyond ours," Peterson admitted. "Based on the limited data we have, their ships can self-repair. They use some form of gravitational manipulation for both offense and defense." Admiral White looked around the room. "I won't sugarcoat this. We are outmatched, but we have one advantage. We know they're coming." She brought up a new image on the screen. Earth's orbital platforms and the small defense fleet humanity had built since joining the galactic community. "As of this moment, Earth is at full military mobilization. Every ship, every weapon, every resource we have goes toward defense." She looked each person in the eye. "The Council may have abandoned us, but we will not abandon ourselves, General." Martinez stepped forward. "I've already spoken with all Earth governments. For the first time in human history, we have complete agreement. All military forces are now under unified command." Jack studied the star map. "What about evacuation? Could we get some people out?" White shook her head. The Council took back most of the long-range ship technology they'd shared. Our vessels can barely reach Mars. No, Commander. We stand and fight. Dr. Peterson raised his hand slightly. There might be another option. The Council didn't share much about the Void, but they did send this data packet right before the last ship left. He brought up a complex diagram. It's biological information about the Void drones. If we can understand it, we might find a weakness. How long will that take? Susan asked. With my full team? Weeks at least. White nodded. You have your assignments. Peterson, get everything you can from that data. Grant, compile all intelligence the aliens left behind, intentionally or not. Miller, you'll coordinate our defense platforms. As they left the meeting, Jack pulled Susan aside in the hallway. Did you see anything in those files about why the Void is coming here? Are they just expanding their territory, or is there something specific about our system? Susan hesitated. There was one mention. Apparently the Void doesn't just consume. They're looking for something. The Council records called it the Seed. And that's here? On Earth? I don't know. But I'm going to find out. 3 weeks later, Jack watched as Earth changed below him. From orbit, he could see new defense installations appearing across the planet. Massive gun platforms rose from the oceans. Cities darkened as power was diverted to military needs. On the station, engineer Patricia Collins had transformed the civilian docking bays into makeshift shipyards. Commercial vessels were being fitted with weapons never designed for them. We've converted 28 ships so far, Patricia reported, her face smudged with grease. She handed Jack a tablet showing the modifications. They won't win beauty contests, but they'll fight. How long will they last against void ships? Jack asked. Patricia didn't pretend. Minutes maybe, but every minute counts. Jack nodded. On the main deck, Admiral White was speaking with Captain Ryan Lee, who would command the first line of defense at the edge of the solar system. The USS Defender will be ready tomorrow, Lee said. We'll take position beyond Neptune's orbit. Your job is early warning, Captain, White reminded him. At the first sign of the void, you report back and retreat. Lee nodded, but Jack saw the look in his eyes. They all knew some would not be coming back. As Jack returned to his quarters that night, he stopped to look out at Earth once more. Somewhere, down there, billions of people were preparing for the worst. Many didn't even know yet just how bad it would be. They left us in trouble, he whispered to himself. But we're still standing. Captain Ryan Lee stood on the bridge of the USS Defender and watched his crew work. Just 2 months ago, this ship had been the cargo freighter Northern Star, carrying goods between Earth and the moon colonies. Now it bristled with weapons, its cargo holds converted to house fighters and troops. Status report, Ryan called out. His second-in-command, Lisa Ortiz, looked up from her station. All systems operational, Captain. The other ships report ready as well. Ryan nodded. The fleet consisted of just 7 ships, all hastily converted like the Defender. They now floated at the edge of the solar system beyond Neptune's orbit. Their job was simple: spot the Void Collective when they arrived and warn Earth. Anything on long-range sensors? Ryan asked. Nothing yet, sir, said the young sensor operator, Ben Nguyen. Just the usual background. He stopped suddenly, his eyes widening. Wait, I'm picking up something. Ryan moved quickly to Ben's station. Show me. The screen displayed the dark void of space beyond their solar system. Then small dots appeared, moving fast. How many? Ryan asked, his mouth suddenly dry. Ben worked his controls. At least 200 ships, sir. Maybe more. Ryan straightened up. Send the alert to Earth. Now. As the warning signal raced toward Earth, Ryan addressed his small fleet. This is Captain Lee. The enemy has arrived. Remember your training. We hold position and gather as much intel as possible. May God be with us all. Back on Earth's orbital command station, Jack Miller received the alert during a meeting with Admiral White and the other defense leaders. They're here, Jack said, looking up from his tablet. The room fell silent. Admiral White was the first to speak. How long do we have? At their current speed, 4 days until they reach Mars orbit. 6 to Earth. White nodded. Activate all. Defense platforms, General Martinez, are your ground forces ready? The general stood tall. As ready as they can be. Every nation has contributed troops and resources. And the civilian evacuations? White asked. The underground shelters are at 70% capacity. We're still moving people from coastal areas inland. Engineer Patricia Collins spoke up from her corner of the room. Admiral, the orbital railguns are online, but we've had power fluctuations in sectors 3 and 7. Fix them, White ordered. We need every weapon operational. As the meeting continued, Lieutenant Susan Grant worked with Dr. Peterson in the science lab. For weeks, they had studied the biological data on the Void Collective. Look at this, Peterson said, pointing to a screen. Their neural network has a specific frequency. If we could disrupt it somehow. Susan leaned closer. Could we build a jammer? Possibly, but we'd need to get very close to their ships, and we don't have enough data to be sure it would work. The station shook suddenly. Susan grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself. What was that? She asked. The answer came over the station's speakers. All personnel, battle stations. Void scout ships have broken through at Neptune. Captain Lee's fleet is engaged. Near Neptune, the USS Defender shuddered as another energy blast hit its shields. Ryan gripped his captain's chair as the ship's engines strained. Evasive pattern Delta, he ordered. Keep those fighters behind us. The converted freighter moved with surprising agility, thanks to Patricia Collins' modifications. On the view screen, Ryan could see the Void ships, dark, twisted shapes that seemed to absorb the light around them. Their design is biological, Lisa Ortiz noted. Almost like insects. Very deadly insects, Ryan replied. Status of the other ships? The Horizon is heavily damaged. The others are still in the fight. Ryan made a quick decision. Order the Horizon to fall back to Mars' defense line. We need their sensor data to reach Earth. As the battle continued, Ryan realized something strange. They're not pressing their advantage. They could overwhelm us, but they're holding back. Lisa studied her tactical display. You're right. Almost like they're testing us. Or trying to learn about our capabilities, Ryan said. Ben, are you recording everything? Every bit of data, sir, Ben confirmed. A massive blast rocked the ship, throwing crew members from their stations. Direct hit to engines, someone called out. Shields at 30%. Ryan knew they couldn't last much longer. All ships begin withdrawal. We have what we came for. Fall back to Mars' defense line. As the small fleet retreated, the Void ships did not pursue aggressively. They simply continued their steady advance toward the inner solar system. On Earth, Major Diane Foster trained yet another group of volunteers. The underground military base in Colorado was packed with civilians learning to become soldiers. The enemy will not look like anything you've seen before, Diane explained to her group. They are not individual beings like us. Each drone is part of a larger consciousness. A young volunteer raised his hand. Can they be killed? Yes, Diane answered firmly. They have physical bodies. They can be destroyed. But they don't fear death the way we do. Each drone is expendable to the hive. After the training session, Diane met with General Martinez. How much time do we have? She asked. Not enough, he replied honestly. But we have something they don't expect. He led her to a massive underground hangar. Inside stood rows of mechanical suits, each 3 times the size of a human. The Exo Armor program, Martinez explained. We've been developing them secretly for years, adapting alien technology where we could. Each suit magnifies the users, strength 100-fold, and carries heavy weapons. Diane looked at the impressive machines. Will it be enough? It has to be. In orbit above Mars, Jack Miller oversaw the final preparations of the defense platforms. The Red Planet had been transformed into humanity's second line of defense, with weapons and ships positioned to slow the Void advance. The early warning system is active, Patricia told him as she finished connecting the last sensor array. We'll know the moment they cross Jupiter's orbit. Jack nodded. How are the new weapons coming along? The rail guns work perfectly in vacuum. We've mounted them on all platforms. They should punch through even the toughest void ships. As they worked, Susan Grant arrived on a shuttle from Earth bringing news. Dr. Peterson has made a breakthrough, she announced. The Void's neural network has a specific frequency we can target. We're building jammers now, but we need to test them. Jack looked at the stars where Neptune would be, too far to see. Captain Lee is bringing back detailed scans from their first encounter. If we're lucky, that will help. And if we're not lucky? Patricia asked. Jack's face was grim. Then we learn fast, or we die. The next day, the remains of Captain Lee's fleet limped into Mars orbit. The USS Defender showed signs of heavy damage, with scorch marks along its hull and one engine barely functioning. Ryan Lee himself looked exhausted but determined as he transmitted his report. They're unlike anything we've faced. Their ships can repair themselves. Traditional weapons slow them down but don't stop them. He sent the sensor data to Earth's Defense Command. But we found something. Their ships communicate constantly with each other. There might be a way to use that against them. As scientists on Earth and Mars studied the new information, the Void Collective continued its advance. They passed Jupiter's orbit without slowing, a dark swarm heading toward the heart of the solar system. Humanity prepared for the greatest fight in its history. Underground, in space, and across the planet, people readied themselves to face an enemy that had conquered countless worlds before them. And somewhere in deep space, watching from a distance, the ships of the Galactic Council that had abandoned Earth moved further away, believing they had bought themselves precious time. The alarms blared throughout the Mars Defense Station. Jack Miller ran to the command center where screens showed the Void Collective ships approaching Mars orbit. How many? He asked the officer at the sensor station. At least 300 ships in the main group, she replied. They'll reach our defense perimeter in 2 hours. Admiral White's face appeared on the main screen, transmitting from Earth. Commander Miller, what's your status? All platforms armed and ready, Jack reported. Captain Lee's ships are in position. We'll give them hell, Admiral. White nodded grimly. Earth's defenses are ready to support you. Good luck. As Jack prepared his forces, an urgent message came from the long-range sensors. Commander, we're detecting another ship entering the system, but it's not Void. It's coming in fast from Sector 7. Jack frowned. Identify it. The design matches Zenturi ships, sir, from the Galactic Council. This made no sense. The Council had abandoned them weeks ago. Are they answering hails? Yes, sir. They're requesting emergency docking. Jack hesitated only a moment. Guide them in. Security teams on full alert. 30 minutes later, Jack stood in the docking bay as the alien ship landed. It showed signs of battle damage with burn marks across its sleek hull. The door opened, and a tall, slender alien emerged. Jack recognized the species, Zenturi, with blue-tinted skin and 4 arms. Ambassador Krelax, Jack said, surprised. The Zenturi had been one of the last to leave Earth. Commander Miller, the ambassador replied, his voice translator making his words sound flat. I come with urgent news. In the conference room, Krelax explained while medical staff treated wounds on his upper arms. My homeworld has fallen to the void, he said. I escaped with what information I could. Susan Grant, who had joined them, leaned forward. Why come back? Your council abandoned us. Krelax's large eyes blinked slowly. The council's decision was not unanimous. Some of us disagreed strongly. He placed a data device on the table. The void is not just targeting your world. They seek to destroy the refugee convoys now fleeing through nearby systems. Jack looked confused. Refugee convoys? Yes. When the council decided to sacrifice your system, many civilians were evacuated from planets near the void's path. Thousands of ships carrying millions of beings are now traveling through systems only 2 light-years from here. Susan's eyes widened. They're using refugee ships while we fight the void. The council leaders thought the void would be occupied, with Earth long enough for the convoys to reach safety, Krelax admitted. But the Void detected the convoys. Now they divide their forces, some to attack Earth, others to hunt the refugees. Dr. Peterson had been quietly listening. Now he spoke. "Ambassador, what do you know about the Void's neural network?" Kree turned to him. "More than the Council shared with you." He activated a hologram from his device. "The Void functions as one mind across many bodies. They communicate on specific frequencies. We've detected those," Peterson said excitedly. "We're working on jammers." "Jammers might work for individual ships," Kree said, "but to truly hurt them, you must target their hub ships." The hologram showed larger vessels at the center of the Void fleet. As they discussed strategy, the station shook violently. "They're here," Jack said, rushing back toward the command center. The battle for Mars had begun. The railguns on the defense platforms fired constantly, their heavy metal projectiles tearing through the first wave of Void ships. Captain Lee's small fleet moved in precise formation, targeting the points where the alien vessels seemed most vulnerable. From the command center, Jack directed the defense. "Concentrate fire on the ships in Sector 4. Don't let them get past the outer perimeter." The humans fought with everything they had. Patricia Collins's weapons worked better than expected, the railguns proving effective against the Void's biological hulls. But there were simply too many enemy ships. "We're losing platforms 3 and 7, an officer reported. "They've broken through in Sector 2. Jack made the hard call. "Begin evacuation of the science stations. All personnel fall back to secondary positions." As the battle raged, Susan Grant worked with Dr. Peterson and Ambassador Kree in the day lab. "If we combine our jamming frequency with this data from the Ambassador," Peterson said, "we might be able to disrupt their entire network temporarily." Susan looked at the plans. "But we'd need to get close to one of their hub ships." "I can help with that," said a new voice. They turned to see Captain Lee in the doorway. "The Defender is damaged but still flying. We could get your device close enough." On Earth, Major Diane Foster led her exo-armor squad on a training exercise when General Martinez called her back to base. "The battle at Mars isn't going well," he told her grimly. "We're accelerating the timetable. Your squad deploys in 24 hours. Diane looked shocked. "Sir, my people need at least another week of training." "We don't have a week, Major. The first Void ships will reach Earth in 3 days." In orbit around Mars, Jack Miller made a difficult decision. The defense couldn't hold much longer. "Begin full retreat to Earth," he ordered. "All ships cover the evacuation vessels." As personnel rushed to escape ships, Jack met with Captain Lee, Susan, Dr. Peterson, and Ambassador Kree. "Your plan, to attack their hub ship, is risky," Jack said. "But it might work," Susan insisted. "And we need to do more than just defend Earth. If the Void reaches those refugee convoys..." Jack looked at the star chart showing the convoy routes passing dangerously close to their solar system. "Why should we care about them? Their people left us to die." Kree spoke softly. "Many on those ships fought against the Council's decision. They are civilians, children, families, who had no say in what their leaders did." After a long moment, Jack nodded. "What do you need?" Captain Lee pointed to the map. "A small, fast team. We'll take the Defender while the main fleet falls back to Earth. If we can place Dr. Peterson's device on or near a hub ship, we might disrupt enough of their network to give Earth a fighting chance, and perhaps save the convoys too," Kree added. As they prepared for the mission, other aliens arrived at the Mars station, defectors from various Council species who had disagreed with abandoning Earth. They brought valuable skills and knowledge. Rigellian engineer helped Patricia Collins modify the jamming device. "Your design is impressive, especially with your limited technology," he told her. "Necessity breeds innovation," she replied as they worked. The hours passed quickly. The Void ships moved steadily through Mars orbit, destroying the remaining defense platforms. Soon the Defender was the only major human ship still in position, hiding in the shadow of Mars' largest moon. On board, Captain Lee gathered his volunteer crew, a mix of humans and alien defectors. Our mission is simple but nearly impossible, he told them. We find a void hub ship, get close enough to plant the jamming device, and get out before they destroy us. Susan Grant, who had insisted on joining the mission, checked the device one last time. If this works, it will disrupt their network for 10 minutes at most. Earth's forces need to be ready to attack the moment it activates. Ambassador Krelax joined them on the bridge. I've sent warnings to the refugee convoys. They're changing course, but they need more time. Ryan Lee looked at the strange crew assembled before him. Humans and aliens united by a common enemy. Then let's buy them that time. For Earth and for everyone else out there. The Defender's engines hummed to life as it moved out from its hiding place. Ahead lay the vast void fleet, now turning toward Earth. And somewhere among those dark ships were the massive hub vessels they needed to find. The small ship accelerated toward danger while Mars fell behind them, its defenses broken but its people safely evacuating. The next battle would decide everything, not just for humanity but for millions of innocents who didn't even know that Earth was now their only hope. The USS Defender moved silently through space, its engines running at minimal power to avoid detection. Captain Ryan Lee studied the sensor readings that showed the massive void fleet ahead. They had been following the enemy ships for 6 hours, looking for a hub ship. There, Ambassador Krelax pointed to a large blip on the screen. That vessel is nearly twice the size of the others. It must be a hub. Ryan nodded. Good eye, Lisa. Plot a course that keeps us behind that moon until the last moment. Lieutenant Lisa Ortiz worked quickly at her station. Course plotted, Captain. In the ship's lab, Susan Grant and Dr. Peterson made final adjustments to their jamming device. The small metal box didn't look impressive, but inside was their best hope. The timer is set for 3 minutes, Peterson explained. That should give us enough time to get clear before it activates. Susan picked up the device carefully. And you're sure this will work? As sure as I can be with alien technology, we barely understand, Peterson admitted. The ship's intercom came to life with Ryan's voice. All hands prepare for approach. We'll be within range of the hub ship in 20 minutes. Susan looked at Peterson. It's time. Back on Earth, Admiral White met with General Martinez in the main defense command center buried deep under the Rocky Mountains. A giant screen showed the approaching void fleet now just hours away from Earth orbit. The evacuation of Mars is complete, White said. All surviving ships are taking position in our defensive line. Martinez nodded. And Captain Lee's mission? No word yet. But if they succeed, we need to be ready to strike immediately. White turned to the communications officer. Send the order. All forces prepare for coordinated attack on my mark. In to orbit around Earth. Jack Miller oversaw the final preparations of the defense platforms. Patricia Collins' railguns had been installed on every available satellite and station. Last platform online, Patricia reported. We've got 312 weapons ready to fire. Jack looked at the tactical display showing Earth's defenses, a thin line of ships and platforms that seemed woefully inadequate against the coming storm. It will have to be enough, he said. His tablet beeped with an encrypted message from Susan. Approaching target, stand by. Aboard the Defender, Ryan Lee guided his ship toward the massive hub vessel. The void ship was unlike the others, darker, with pulsing lights along its surface that reminded Ryan of a heartbeat. Their sensors haven't detected us yet, Lisa reported. The stealth systems are working. Ryan nodded. Take us in closer. We need to be within 1 kilometer to deploy the device. The Defender crept forward, using debris from destroyed Mars platforms as cover. As they got closer, they could see the true scale of the hub ship. It was enormous, easily 20 times the size of their vessel. Look at those connections, Ben Guyen said from the sensor station. There are energy streams flowing between the hub and the smaller ships. Krelax leaned forward. The neural network. The hub is controlling them. The Defender was now less than 2 kilometers from the target. Ryan could feel the tension on the bridge as everyone held their breath. 1,500 meters. Lisa counted down. 1,200. 1,000. Suddenly alarms blared. They've detected us, Ben shouted. Evasive maneuvers, Ryan ordered. Get us closer. The Defender swerved as energy blasts from the hub ship narrowly missed them. The smaller void ships began to turn toward them. 800 meters, Lisa reported as the ship shook from a near hit. Susan and Peterson arrived on the bridge, carrying the jamming device. "We need to get closer," Susan said urgently. Ryan made a quick decision. "We won't be able to plant it directly on their hull. Prepare to launch it with the torpedo system." As Peterson secured the device in a torpedo casing, the ship took a direct hit. The lights flickered and several consoles sparked. "Shields at 40%, Lisa called out. "We can't take another hit like that." 500 meters, Ben reported. "In torpedo range." Ryan gave the order. "Launch the device." The torpedo shot from the Defender toward the hub ship. Everyone watched the screen as it streaked across space. "Direct hit," Ben shouted as the torpedo struck the hub's hull. "Now get us out of here," Ryan ordered. "Maximum speed." The Defender turned and accelerated away from the hub ship as void vessels converged on their position. More energy blasts rocked the ship. "Engines at 70%, Lisa reported. "We're taking heavy damage." Ryan gripped his chair. "Just hold together a little longer, old girl." On the view screen they could see the hub ship still pursuing them. There was no sign that the jamming device had activated yet. "How much longer?" Ryan asked. Peterson checked his tablet. 30 seconds until it activates." Those seconds felt like hours as the Defender shuddered under continued attacks. Then suddenly, the void ship seemed to falter. The hub ship's lights flickered, and the smaller vessels around it began moving erratically. "It's working," Susan exclaimed. All across the void fleet, ships stopped in their tracks or began drifting aimlessly. Some even collided with each other. "Send the signal to Earth," Ryan ordered. "Now." On Earth, Admiral White received the message. "Jammer active. Void network disrupted. Attack now." She didn't hesitate. "All forces, commence attack. Target the disoriented ships first." Earth's defenses roared to life. Railguns fired from hundreds of platforms. The remaining human fleet moved forward, weapons blazing. For the first time, the void ships were vulnerable. Major Diane Foster led her exo-armor squad from a transport ship. The massive mechanical suits jumped from the vessel directly into space, using built-in thrusters to guide themselves toward disabled void ships. "Team Alpha, with me," Diane ordered through her comm system. "We're boarding that vessel at coordinates 227 by 45. The armored soldiers landed on the hull of a drifting void ship. Using cutting tools, they forced their way inside. What they found shocked them. The interior was a maze of biological material, pulsing like living tissue. "Plant the charges at junction points," Diane instructed. "Then get out fast. Across the battlefield." Humanity fought with everything they had. The railguns proved devastatingly effective against the confused void ships. Human fighters darted between larger vessels, picking off smaller targets. Aboard the Defender, now at a safe distance, Ryan Lee watched the battle unfold. "It's incredible," he said softly. "We're actually hurting them." Krelax nodded. "But the effect will not last long. The hub ship will reset its system soon." As if on cue, some of the void ships began to move with purpose again. The hub ship's light stabilized and energy beams shot out, reconnecting with nearby vessels. "The network is re-establishing," Peterson warned. "We have maybe 2 minutes before they're back to full strength." Ryan opened a channel to Earth. "Admiral, the effect is wearing off. You need to target that hub ship now." White's voice came back calm but urgent. "Understood, Captain. All railguns redirect fire to these coordinates." Across Earth's defensive line, hundreds of railguns turned toward the hub ship. On White's command, they fired simultaneously. Thousands of projectiles streaked toward the massive vessel, punching through its hull in countless places. The hub ship shuddered under the assault. Explosions bloomed across its surface. Then, in a final desperate act, it released a massive energy pulse that disabled the closest human platforms. But the damage was done. The hub ship's core exploded, taking dozens of connected void vessels. With it, the remaining enemy ships seemed to lose direction, like a body without a head. "They did it," Susan whispered. On Earth, cheers erupted in the command center. But Admiral White wasn't celebrating yet. "This is just one hub," she reminded them. "There will be more, and now they know our strategy." As the damaged Defender limped back toward Earth, Ryan Lee looked at his crew, humans and aliens working side by side. "We've won a battle," he said. "But the war is far from over." In space, the remains of the Void Fleet began to regroup. And, beyond the solar system, the refugee convoys continued their desperate flight, not yet knowing that Earth had just bought them precious time. 3 days after the destruction of the first hub ship, Earth still braced for the next attack. The remains of the Void Fleet had pulled back to Jupiter's orbit, seemingly regrouping. In Earth's orbital command center, Admiral White met with her top officers. "They're waiting for something," she said, studying the tactical display. "But what?" Jack Miller pointed to the screen. "The long-range sensors show movement. More Void ships are coming from beyond Neptune." White's face hardened. "How many?" "At least 2 more hub ships and several hundred smaller vessels." The room fell silent. They had barely survived 1 hub ship. 3 would be impossible to defeat with their remaining forces. Ambassador Krelax spoke up. "The refugee convoys report they are nearly clear of the danger zone. Your actions have given them time to escape." Susan Grant looked at the alien diplomat. "At least something good has come from all this." Dr. Peterson rushed into the room, his tablet clutched tightly in his hand. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the data from the destroyed hub ship. I think I found something." He placed his tablet on the main table, showing complex diagrams of the Void neural network. "The hubs don't just control the smaller ships, they communicate with each other using quantum entanglement." "What does that mean in simple terms, Doctor?" White asked. "It means they're all connected. If we could disrupt all 3 hubs simultaneously, the entire Void Fleet might collapse." Captain Ryan Lee, his face still showing cuts from the previous battle, leaned forward. "How do we do that? The jammers only work at close range, and we'd need 3 teams." Patricia Collins had been quiet until now. "What if we don't need to get close? What if we let them come to us?" All eyes turned to her. Patricia pointed to Earth on the display. "We know they want to reach Earth, so we let them come, but we set a trap." Over the next day, Earth's remaining forces prepared Patricia's plan. The railgun platforms were repositioned. The damaged fleet took up new formations, and deep within Earth's atmosphere, a special surprise waited for the invaders. Major Diane Foster led her exo-armor troops through final drills. "Remember, we only get 1 shot at this," she told them. "The moment the jammers activate, you hit the hubs with everything you have." In the science lab, Dr. Peterson and Susan worked with engineers to modify the jamming devices. "If we boost the power and tune them to this specific frequency," Peterson explained, "we might affect all 3 hubs at once." As preparations continued, Jack Miller found Ambassador Krelax standing alone at a viewport looking out at Earth. "Beautiful world," the alien said quietly. "My people have stories about planets like yours. So much water, so much life." "Will your people ever know what we did here?" Jack asked. "That we fought not just for ourselves, but for their refugees too?" Krelax turned to face him. "If we survive, I will make sure they know. The Council was wrong about humans. They saw you as primitive, expendable. They did not understand your greatest strength, which is, you stand together when threatened. You protect even those who do not deserve it." Alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Admiral White's voice came over the speakers. "All personnel to battle stations. The Void Fleet is moving toward Earth. ETA 2 hours." The final battle was about to begin. On the bridge of the USS Defender, now patched together and barely functioning, Captain Ryan Lee addressed his crew. "We've been through hell together. Now we face even worse odds. But remember what we're fighting for. Not just Earth, but everyone out there who needs more time to escape." Lisa Ortiz managed a small smile. "Never thought I'd die protecting the folks who ran out on us." Ryan shook his head. "Who says we're going to die? I plan to tell this story to my grandchildren someday." The Void Fleet approached Earth in a massive formation. 3 hub ships formed a triangle at the center, surrounded by hundreds of smaller vessels. They moved with purpose, their dark hulls absorbing the sunlight. They've learned from the last battle, Admiral White observed from the command center. They're keeping the hubs protected this time. Just as we expected, General Martinez replied. Is the atmospheric package ready? White nodded. Ready and waiting. As the void ships crossed the moon's orbit, Earth's defenses remained silent. The enemy moved closer, seemingly cautious about the lack of resistance. They're scanning us, Jack reported from his station. Looking for traps. Let them look, White said calmly. Hold positions until they reach the marker. The minutes ticked by tensely as the massive fleet approached Earth. When they reached the designated position, White gave the order. Now. Across Earth's atmosphere, hundreds of weather control satellites activated simultaneously. The technology, designed for controlling storms, had been repurposed. Massive lightning bolts arced through space toward the void ships. The electrical discharge wasn't meant to destroy them, but to create electromagnetic interference. In that moment of confusion, White gave her next command. Launch jammers. From Earth's surface, 3 rockets shot upward, each carrying one of Peterson's modified jamming devices. They detonated in a triangle around the void fleet, creating a field of disruption. The effect was immediate. The void ships began to drift aimlessly. The hubs flickered as their connections were severed. All forces. Attack, White ordered. Earth's defenses roared to life. Railguns fired from every platform. The human fleet surged forward, and from Earth's upper atmosphere, Major Foster led hundreds of exo-armored troops directly toward the vulnerable hub ships. Squad Alpha, take the northern hub, Foster ordered. Beta, the southern. My team has the center. The battle was chaotic and violent. Human ships darted between larger void vessels, targeting critical points identified from the previous encounter. The railguns proved devastating against the confused enemy. Foster's exo-armored troops landed on the central hub ship, cutting their way inside. They planted powerful explosives at key junction points before retreating. Clear the blast zone, Foster called as her team jumped away from the hub. The explosions rippled across all 3 hub ships nearly simultaneously. As they began to break apart, something unexpected happened. A chain reaction spread through the void fleet. The neural network, already disrupted by the jammers, collapsed completely. From the command center, Admiral White watched in amazement as void ships began to self-destruct or power down across the battlefield. They're dying, she said quietly. Dr. Peterson studied his readings. The hubs were more connected than we realized. Without them, the drones have no purpose, no direction. The battle ended more quickly than anyone expected. Within an hour, the mighty void fleet was reduced to drifting debris. Humanity had won. 2 weeks later, Jack Miller stood in a conference room as a communication signal came through from deep space. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to a high-ranking member of the Galactic Council. Earth has surprised us, the alien said carefully. We have received reports of your victory over the Void Collective. Jack said nothing, waiting. The refugee convoys have safely reached Council space, the alien continued. They bring stories of human bravery, of how Earth fought not just for itself, but for those who had abandoned it. Admiral White stepped forward. We did what was right, something your council failed to do. The alien lowered its eyes. The council wishes to re-establish relations with Earth. On what terms? White asked. As equals, the alien replied. With a permanent seat on the council, your species has earned that right. Later, as Earth began its recovery, Ambassador Krelax approached Jack as he watched construction ships rebuilding the orbital platforms. My people would like to establish a permanent embassy on Earth, the ambassador said. Many other species have requested the same. Jack smiled slightly. I guess saving the galaxy has some perks. They left you in trouble, Krelax said, but humanity took the stand to protect them. That will not be forgotten, not for 1,000 years. As the sun rose over Earth, ships from across the galaxy began to return. This time, not as superior beings offering limited guidance to a primitive world, but as grateful equals, coming to honor the species that had sacrificed for others, even those who had abandoned them in their hour of need. Humanity had taken its place among the stars not by conquest or technology, but by showing the greatest strength of all, the willingness to stand and fight, not just for themselves, but for everyone.